And now, ladies and gentlemen,
Put your thumbs up and say it's Tickety Boo.
Tickety Boo.
Tickety Boo, Tickety Boo, everything's Tickety Boo.
Tickety Boo, son. Tickety Boo.
Tickety Boo.
So welcome to another episode of Tickety Boo. You ever had one of those days where everything's going to hell and someone just hits you with just be positive, or don't worry, everything happens for a reason, and instead of feeling better you just want to punch them in the throat? Today we're talking about toxic positivity. Ian, have you ever been guilty of maybe accidentally flinging out a bit of toxic positivity, or have you ever had it thrown at you when you actually need the complete opposite?
Let's be honest. I don't think there's a person on the planet that isn't guilty of toxic positivity at some point.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times have you used the cliches like, look on the bright side, pull yourself together, it's not that bad, you should be grateful.
But they're really just throwaway statements, aren't they? They're not really taking a moment to consider what that individual may be going through at that point. Probably delivered with full of good intention.
Mostly, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But yeah, you're absolutely right. They are just throwaway comments, and that's the whole point. Mm-hmm. They're not really based on the context of the situation, and they're not acknowledging all the different aspects of whatever situation the person that you're talking to is in.
Yeah, it's one of those strange situations, and we're not saying that. I think the key thing from this episode is we're not saying positivity is bad.
Oh no, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Being optimistic can certainly help you in the situation, but toxic positivity just takes it that little bit further forwards, doesn't it?
Okay, shall we just explain it to the...
Yeah,
a lot
go
of
for it,
people
yeah.
don't quite know what we mean by toxic positivity.
Well, I must admit, I don't know if it's a generational thing. Like, I'd heard of it, and I'm aware of it, but I'm pretty sure when we were a bit younger, we weren't going around talking about toxic positivity. I don't know when it arrived. I know it's a psychological term, but yeah, not everybody necessarily knows what it is.
No.
So, do you want to go for it?
Sound okay. Well, effectively, the way I see it is toxic positivity is when you use positive thoughts to mask or stop you acknowledging genuine feelings. So, for example, if you're driving your car towards a cliff, and instead of going, your genuine thought process says, I think I should stop now, you go, it'll be okay. You know that positivity at that point was toxic and not really very helpful. So that's probably a pretty appalling example. But toxic positivity, it's when you use positivity to mask over acknowledgement of genuine feeling or a situation that's happening. That can be used by other people.
So to me, it feels like this has exploded in the online social media
especially
culture.
Since COVID. Yes.
Yeah, especially since COVID. And it all ties into this, which is not always positive in my opinion, this self-help culture, social media influencers, modern hustle culture, where you're expected to stay positive no matter what happens in your life. But the reality is we're not meant to be positive all of the time, are we? That's not natural.
Oh, no, absolutely not. Obviously, we try and stay positive, which I'm going to keep saying that because I really don't want to steer away from positivity.
Yeah.
But the reality is our general feelings and everything that we've got, whether it's fear, whatever it is, they're all those feelings are signposts that take you towards growth and what you need to know. And sometimes by removing acknowledgement of whatever those feelings will be and just dismissing them, dismissing actual facts and feelings that are actually based on something, you dismiss them with false feeling, or then what happens is you're not allowing your feelings to steer you in the right direction, or even worse, away from danger.
So when we grew up, our sort of parents from their generation, it was very different, wasn't it? It was the, grin and bear it, stiff upper lip, keep kind of going sort of thing. So this toxic positivity, is this a new problem, or is it just an old problem with a new label? Because like we were saying with our parents, stiff upper lip, just grin and bear it, just keep going when somebody's going through it. Has it always been around? We've just put a different label on it now.
Yes, that's a really good question. And yes, of course, challenges have always been there, but we've gone from acknowledging the fact that we have a difficulty and saying, by saying grit and bear it, get your head down and get it done, you're acknowledging the fact that there's an issue that you need to resolve or work through. Whereas toxic positivity is totally dismissing that issue and going, it's all right, it'll be okay.
Yeah.
So they're the two. That's how I see it differently, and how that has kind of evolved into something that at times is massively helpful.
I think it the way that we live our lives now with this filtered fake happiness through social media, where people just positively post their highlight reels, which kind of gives you this false sense that you should just be happy and feeling good all of the time, which is, let's be honest, is not part of the human experience.
No, absolutely not.
And to me, anybody that's happy all the time has got issues.
You don't live with me then, do you?
But let's be honest, are you happy all of the time?
Well, no.
We're not designed to be.
Oh, no. I mean, where's the joy in happiness? If it's consistent, it just becomes bland and monotone, and you need a variety. You need to experience the lows to enjoy the highs, while we're talking about cliches. But no, as you say, without that full myriad of human emotion and acknowledging what's going on, where's the growth? Where's the actual sensations that make you feel alive?
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of people that generally are happy a majority of the time. They've created a life for themselves where they're enabled to feel happy, but they don't feel happy 100% of the time. We should have a range of emotions over the course of a day and a week, from frustration, anger, boredom, stress, excitement, happiness, because that's healthy. Show me somebody that has one dominant emotion in their life, and I can normally show you some form of problem in addiction or emotional numbing that we were talking about earlier. But to me, it's just this weird pressure that seems to appear from social media that sort of says, well, if you're struggling, just get on with it and keep moving forwards and stay positive. And there's a difference between remain optimistic, but being positive 100% of the time. That's where the toxicity kind of creeps in this situation. And it's false messaging, really.
Yeah.
Because we need moments of reflection. Look back at the lessons learnt in the episodes we recorded recently. When we stop and take a look at traits and things that have happened to us in the past of our life, do we really sit there and go, oh, I'm so happy as I reflect on these moments in my past? It's not, is it? It's something, in the therapy room, when we take a look at parts of ourselves, there's times where we're very reflective and we're grieving and we're letting go and all the rest of it, and you need that to lead you into this happiness. And I think when somebody's really struggling and they see all these messages online, it doesn't really help. It gets in the way of healing.
Well, yeah, it just stops you acknowledging.
It makes you feel like there's something wrong with you, doesn't it?
Well, there is that. That's
Why can't I be like them?
Well, again, this is the problem with social media as well. You get into this state of comparison and everything, and you almost do it to yourself as well.
100%. Yeah. What's the worst? If you're not feeling happy for whatever reason, you're going through something, whatever it is, and then you start doom scrolling and looking how happy everybody else appears to be in their lives. In that moment, is that helping you or is it hindering you?
It's hindering you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because
So,
you feel like you're failing.
Again, yeah, it feels like you're failing. It feels like...
Well, it takes away from what we were talking about previously about leaning into vulnerability
yes.
and speaking your truth. You know, now and again you do see somebody putting up a post. You have to be careful here where they're talking about their real experience, that, you know, they're maybe going through stuff or they're having a bit of a hard time. Some of that sometimes can be a bit toxic in a sort of attention seeking type way, but you get what I mean. Like, and what I mean by that, by the way, not pointing the fingers at anyone, is those random 11 o'clock on a Saturday night in A&E ... I can't believe it type posts that are obviously just
fishing line,
see what I can reel in. But when somebody talks about, you know, where they're generally vulnerable, of they're going through some things and they're not doing it to seek attention, actually, to me, it's to normalise the struggles that we go through as human beings and the range of emotions that we should experience and the difficulties that we do face. Because the thing is, I think as adults, there are a lot of emotions and things that we carry with us that we don't always understand and that we struggle with at times. And then when you're saying, just be happy, just be positive, you know, good vibes only, happiness is a choice, you know, it's like, it all sounds very nice, but, you know, it's telling you that the emotion that you're feeling in that moment's wrong.
Well, it is. And if you've got somebody that struggles to open up and, you know, they want to talk to you, and then for the first time or for the first time in a long time, they feel that they can come and talk to you, you're the person they can open up to. And what you say to them is, you've got a great life, you should be grateful. So then you're throwing it back at them and giving them a sense of shame and a sense of, well, there must be something really wrong with me because everybody else is so positive and so happy. What's wrong with me? I'm so broken.
Hey, you're failing at life.
Yeah. And the other thing about throwaway comments like that is it shows an absolute lack of sincerity. It almost feels like some people, not all the time, but sometimes it feels like people aren't taking the time to listen and empathise. So they just want to chuck you a throwaway comment like, it'll be all right.
So do you think those throwaway statements that I was referring to at the beginning, actually toxic positivity takes us away from real deeper level conversations, or just conversations in general?
No, of course it does.
We don't talk.
I mean, if we take a little bit of time to actually listen, deeper listen, which you should be doing if somebody's opening up to you, not rushing into fix mode, and certainly not dismissing it with a cliche or a comment like "chin up, kid." You know, if I come to you with something that's been troubling me for weeks and weeks, and it might not be a big deal to the rest of the world, but it's eating me up, and all I get out of you is "chin up, kid." You should be grateful. Pull yourself together.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of...
Yeah.
It pushes you back within yourself.
But it does also, it kind of discourages you from actually speaking up again.
Well, of course it does. Of course it does. And the mask is back on. The vulnerability, the opening up your vulnerability closes down. And then you wind yourself in a situation when you're going to go into a downward spiral. So I don't think it's intentional when people do it. I don't know whether it's the fact that then they haven't got the skills to deal with it. I honestly think that it's not malicious.
No, I get that. I that's the one thing that I will say.
Yeah, I need to say that.
Yeah, I don't think these people are bad people. But when they do these throwaway statements, it kind of encourages avoidance, not growth in that moment. And they don't always realise that actually in that moment you've robbed that person of an opportunity or you've downplayed their situation. But I do think a lot of the time that comes from a place of discomfort and not knowing what to say or what to do. Or actually just sort of saying, it sounds like you're going through some stuff and I can understand how that could be difficult, and not necessarily think, oh, well, I don't know what to say because I've got no solutions here for you. People really just want to be heard.
Yeah, so just empathy, empathy.
Yeah.
To say nothing is better than to say something that's going to potentially shut somebody down from communicating with you or somebody else.
Yeah, realising that person at that moment's probably coming from a place of anxiety and actually just needs to kind of put that out, rather than that person going away and burying what's going on until it manifests itself in other things.
Yeah.
You know, but I've been guilty of this, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
You know, I can really relate to it.
I mean, it's when we do it to ourselves. It's like, do you know when they say burying your head in the sand? Perfect example. You know, it'll be all right. I'm not dealing with that today. Don't open it. Put it back in the drawer.
Yeah.
It'll be okay. Well, that's not fixing anything, is it? The underlying problem is still there. And what we need to be doing is encouraging people, offering constructive ways to get through what they're doing. I did say not to go straight into fix-it mode, but listen, empathise. But maybe a way to point them in the right direction of the help that they need, offer them whatever help that you can offer them. Maybe, and actually fixing the core problem is more important than just telling them to be positive.
I normally find that people are very good at fixing their own problems when they get out of their own way, but they're so wrapped up in emotion.
How true is that?
They can't see through the emotion, so logic can't prevail in these situations. So really we want to move away from this positive toxicity trap that we're falling into as a human race. You know, it's this, you know, we've got to be in it to win it.
It is dead strange, isn't it? Because as humans we have a natural bias towards negativity, and then all of a sudden we're buying into this over positivity.
Yeah, well, the funny thing is, you know, I did a video about this the other day on TikTok, which was talking about why don't we overthink positive things? And it's because in positivity there's a level of certainty. In the unknown there's a level of uncertainty, so we need to try and figure that out, or we need to fill in the gaps. And, you know, I think what we really need to do nowadays is move to this place where we let people feel what they feel. And listen to them talk, because actually them talking about it is actually them processing it. It's quite a cathartic process. Very often find myself in the therapy room where the person's just talked and I've not really done anything, maybe opened up with a couple of leading questions, and they go, I'm already feeling better and I've just talked about it and we've not done anything yet.
I get that nearly every time.
And it's, you know, we want to create and encourage honest optimism.
Or emotional honesty.
Emotional honesty. Well, I'm doing something about it now. I've actually taken steps to speak about, vocalise what I'm experiencing rather than keeping it trapped up here. You know, and when somebody's like, oh, I've got all this stuff going on, just stay positive, mate. It'll all be absolutely fine. Yeah. Cheers. Thanks. Yeah. That's that problem sorted now. It's and we just don't think about it. But one of the most valuable things I've learned over all the years of working with people is the most powerful thing you can do generally when somebody speaks up is to say nothing. And create a space where that person, or hold space.
Well, that's one of the best things about the therapy room. What you were just saying about, you sometimes just sit there, you open up with a leading question. And often, now, sometimes the first session goes one of two ways. Either they're through the door and they just can't wait to offload, or they come through the door and then they put every barrier up to tell you what it is that they need to tell you, and you have to try and figure it out. But I wonder why, when they come through our door, they can absolutely, you know, they can tell you everything and they're relieved from it, but they can't do that around. Do you think that is because people are saying, pull yourself together, you've got a good life, whatever it is? They're not giving people the space that you just mentioned, that free space to actually just open up, and you're just quiet so they can listen.
I don't know. I suppose there's this consensus that therapy is the only safe space where you can be vulnerable, or you're not going to be judged in any kind of way. where the social construct is if you open up to your peers or whoever it may be, that might show a sign of weakness, or they might think there's something wrong with you, and they might want to sort of, start to gravitate away from you. And as I said earlier, when you're constantly seeing on Instagram and Facebook, good vibes only and positivity and this, and you got to be in it to win it and keep grinding and all the rest of it, and you're in a space of where you can't do that, why are you going to speak up when in that particular moment that person's going, well, obviously everyone else is doing that, so why can't I do it?
Yeah, you don't realise when you're throwing this stuff out there, you're actually closing the door to people that really need to open up.
Yeah. I put a post out on social media and I repeat it every now and again, and it's always the most popular one, and it just says, you're inside your head creating problems that aren't there again. Stop it. And it gets so much love versus the opposite of that, which would try and be a positivity one. Just think positive things and good things will happen. Well, in reality, that's not quite how it works. And I think, one of the best gifts that we have as humans is giving somebody that space to be heard and seen, and understood. We don't need to fix stuff for people. We don't immediately need to drop into, I need to rescue this from this situation. I just need to let you know that you're safe and you can be heard in this moment.
We also don't need to show judgment. So do you think that by throwing a comment like, pull yourself together, you've got everything, what's the problem? Do you think that is indirectly making a judgment or making them feel as if you are judging them?
You're really robbing that person of whatever it is that they're going through. You're downplaying it.
Yeah. So though we're in our head, we're saying we're judgment free just by making a comment like, it'll all be okay. You are making a judgment. You are trivialising what it is that they're feeling at the time. Yeah,
I've had various people during my life saying, you've got no problems, look at you, you've got your own business and you've got a nice car. Oh yeah, forgot about it. As if those things just take away all your problems in life. It doesn't matter how much you've got in the bank and all the rest of it. If you're struggling with something, you're struggling with it. All that outside stuff, it's not there.
Yeah.
So you've got to drop these statements that try to minimise whatever they're feeling or they're experiencing, because for them at that moment it's very real and it's very raw, and we just need to create this space where they can vocalise and you just hear it.
Yes.
But the problem is, in this culture, we don't want to hear it. We tune into the news to hear it, the negativity and all the rest of it, but we don't want to hear it from the people that are the closest to us.
Definitely.
So it's opening up or creating an environment where people feel safe to speak and you feel comfortable listening.
Yeah, that's right. Validating what they say by listening.
One of the simplest things you say is, I can understand that must be really difficult for you to go through. I'm glad you shared it with me.
I've been through something similar before. I absolutely get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Empathising, because often,
a lot of what you're feeling is valid.
And we're all on the same journey, we're just at different points. So there's a good chance you've been through something similar.
Yeah.
So you don't need to share with them your resolution but I've been through something, you're not on your own, mate. I understand. I went through something similar, I'm here for you, mate. Sometimes that's a lot more valuable than chin up, kid. It's not that bad. Could be worse.
I've had clients in the therapy room say to me they've been to their GP with really bad anxiety, and the GP's given them a throwaway statement of like, you just need to stop worrying as much.
Wow, a GP said that to me.
Yeah, that's a recent client of mine, and that created a whole load more worry, because they immediately went, why am I not able to stop worrying so much? Your problem, you just overthink things too much. No shit.
Yeah, that's it.
Tell me something I don't know. in that moment. But I think, this is going to be a fairly short episode, but I think it's one of those ones that we just wanted to punch through, that unfortunately it's an old problem with a new name, but it's still a problem nonetheless that we need to become more aware of.
Yeah.
When we do the first aid for mental health teaching, one of the first things we say is, even if someone gives you a throwaway statement about doing something or harming themselves, even in jest, it's still to be taken seriously. Now, if you reverse that, that person may be going through some real stuff and have some real confused, troublesome thoughts in their mind, like, stay positive, mate, it's all going to be all right.
Yeah. Well, that's it. It's like somebody. Well, I was talking to Louise about this one yesterday, and when she was ill, I was saying, "Well, what did you see as positive? Positive toxic positivity?" And she says the worst one that she had was, "You've got a lovely life. You should be grateful." So then, not only was she dealing with what she dealt with, she then went away with a sense of guilt and shame to add on top of everything else, that her mind was going around at 1,000,000 miles an hour.
Which interests me. Does that, in that moment, make Louise believe that that person thinks she's being ungrateful at that moment for everything she's got in her life? Or was it coming from a place of compassion and trying to get her to focus on the positives in her life?
I would imagine that it was somebody that was trying to get her to focus on a positive.
So the sort of the intention was good, but the execution was poor.
Yes. And the result wasn't what they would have imagined at all.
So, and actually, as a result of it, Louise ended up feeling worse than better.
So she'd opened up to somebody, then came away with a new sense of guilt and feeling ungrateful and disrespectful and all this stuff that your overthinking mind does. Just to get that roundabout of overthinking spinning faster and faster and harder to get off.
So what we're really saying is that actually, if you look at that example you've just given us of Louise there, that all of us have a responsibility to think about the things we say in this situation when someone's decided to be maybe a bit more vulnerable or they're going through something with us, because unintentionally you can say something that actually compounds the issue, not makes it better.
Yeah. If you haven't got something constructive to say, or just listening is powerful enough.
Yeah.
Just being heard, just allowing somebody to vent and just take that little bit of pressure out themselves. That's better than an off the cuff comment, a throwaway comment or a cliche. At least taking a few minutes just to sit and listen and empathise. That shows that you've got the time for them.
Yeah.
And it makes them feel like they're not on their own.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's... We're unintentionally going to drop the ball and say things. We're not going to get it right all of the time. But I think it's actually, this episode's more about getting people to be more aware of how they say things. And drop the "at least you've got a nice house" type statements, or at least you've got a nice car, because those kind of things are minimising what that person's experiencing in that moment.
Makes you wonder if they're almost making it about them. I'd love to have your car, I'd love to have your house. At least you've got those things, isn't it? Is it almost a backhanded way of making it about them?
Well,
I don't think they do it intentionally.
I've had somebody say to me once when I was airing a problem, "There's somebody out there that would love to have your problem." I'm like, yeah, but that doesn't really help me at the moment.
No. Yeah.
Thanks for the,
Yeah, your problem is somebody else's dream. Well, that's good, but right now it's still my bleeding
It's
problem.
my nightmare.
Yeah, it's still my nightmare, big style.
And it's not going away. And, I think we need to start moving away from this trap that we keep falling into.
Or at least finding a balance between positivity and honouring our genuine emotions.
Yeah. One of the things that, and by the way, sometimes toxic positivity is something that we do to ourselves.
Of course it is. It's a form of masking.
Yeah. And one of the greatest statements I've always used is this moment will pass. When I've been trapped in something and really can't see my way out, this moment will pass. And I think the other thing to do is for people is, I do say to them, think how many times in your life you've had your back up against the wall and you've got no idea what you're going to do. You've always figured it out.
Yeah.
And you'll figure this one out, but right now, stop trying so hard. You know, step away from this situation for a bit and revisit it. Because I think we put these massive pressures on ourselves to fix everything right now. And humans are amazing at solving problems, but we're also pretty bloody good at creating them when we're stuck inside of our heads. I said in a previous episode, our biggest enemy is that thing between our ears.
Yeah.
And when it when it runs amok, it's not always the greatest. So, I've said to loads of people, look, right now is not the time to try and figure this out. This moment will pass, this thing will pass. It will all work out in the end. So stop trying so hard.
Yeah, I've been here before.
Yeah.
I figured it out.
Yeah.
I'm very good at finding new problems, but 90% of the problems I have, when I lose, it's all stuff that I've faced 100 times before in the last 48 years, and I'm still here. And do you know what? I didn't lose the house. Nobody left me. The rest of it. So it's about regaining that sense of perspective.
Yeah.
Often, and understanding, it's not the end of the world. But there you go, another cliche.
Just get over it. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah, chump kid.
Stiff upper lip and all of that.
Yeah, but sometimes it's like having your head in a vice, and the tighter it gets, the harder and harder it is just to see a way out. So, like you say, sometimes the most constructive thing is not to think your way out of it, because you can't. Stop trying to think your way out of it.
Well, most of the time you're thinking your way in it. You're using flawed thinking, flawed reasoning,
and you're always tightening that vice and the pressure on your head.
Step away. It's you will figure it out. But I think if somebody just says the wrong thing at a certain time, it's impeding you, it's not helping you. And I think we all, as decent human beings, have a responsibility to try and be better than we are right now, understanding and listening.
Yeah. And we don't have to turn off to every emotion, because it's not just because you have a thought and it's not full of rainbows and sunshine and fairy dust, it doesn't mean you don't acknowledge it. Well, to be told you don't have to, to tell yourself you don't have to acknowledge negative thoughts, well, that's just rubbish, because it's all part of our experience, our growth.
Well, this is where a lot of people I find in the therapy room struggle, in that a lot of emotions and thoughts are just opinions, not facts. But we treat them as though, and we respond to them though as their facts. And I say to them as well, you've had a thought that you're not good enough, or you're not succeeding, or whatever the thought is, and that's not really the problem. It's the thinking you're doing now on the back of it that's the issue. And they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, there's a difference between thoughts and thinking, and it's the thinking that you're doing at the moment that's actually the issue.
Yeah, that's it.
Well,
thoughts, they're the sentences that come into your head that tell you what your mind's thinking, and then what your brain's coming up with, and how you're feeling.
And most of it's nonsense. Well, internal garbage. But thought comes in, full stop. It's us with our thinking that starts the next paragraph, and it's the emotions and the stories we tell ourselves off the back of it. And then you pipe up and go, keep chin up, mate. Just be positive, grin and bear it, stiff upper lip. You should be grateful. You're like, yeah, thanks. So, I mean, this is a short episode, but it really was just about how do we move away from this good vibes only trap. We validate before encouraging. So just instead of saying just stay positive, that sounds really tough, and I hear you. Let people feel what they feel. you don't need to fix it, just listen to them and let them talk and drop those at least statements.
Yes.
Yeah, at least you've got a nice car. Don't minimise what they're feeling in that moment. And just encourage honest optimism,
Yes.
not forced positivity. Being hopeful is great, but let people process first, because that's what they're really struggling to do. Just let them process. And just try to remember that one of the most powerful things you can say sometimes is nothing other than, I hear you, or I understand. That must be difficult. So that's that short episode on toxic positivity. We've put the world to rights. Having a bit of a rant. Thanks for listening. As always, if you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple, click that subscribe icon so you get notified when new episodes come out. If you're watching us on YouTube, click that bell icon so you get notified every time we drop an episode, which is every Monday at the moment, by the way. And once again, thanks very much for watching and listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode of Tickety Boo.
If you or someone close to you needs to access mental health support, please contact your GP, or if it's out with normal office hours, get in touch with NHS 24 on 111. Alternatively, contact the Samaritans on 116 123. All calls are free of charge from any phone. You can also find more support information on the Tickety Boo website, ticketyboopodcast.co.uk.